first guy I thought of was Howard Eskin, man. Howard, that's the first thing I thought of was you with Danny Green. I'm going, hey, maybe Philly fan could be a little bit more supportive of the dude. And I was going like, I've got to get Howard on because, dude, you talk like that to high school basketball players. You don't talk like that to NBA guys. Thanks so much for doing it. Just your spin on it, Howard.
All right. Well, number one, he's defending probably the biggest fraud of an athlete in Philadelphia in the last, I would say at least, 5 years since he's been in the league. And that's Ben Simmons. A total fraud, dismissive, lazy because he won't work with coaches. And you're going to defend this guy for these fans putting up with Ben Simmons for 5 years, not reaching the potential. And I think the expectations were way too high. Heck, he had a losing team at LSU, and he's supposed to be a star. He shouldn't have been the number one pick. It should have been Brandon Ingram, but that's past history. But the fans in Philadelphia called me a hater because for the last at least few years, I've criticized him and said the 76ers will never win a championship with Ben Simmons. And then the fans finally realized. There's one area in which I was wrong. I said that Ben Simmons, and I'll get to Danny Green in a second. I said that Ben Simmons was the only guy in the NBA that wouldn't take a 13-foot jump shot. I was wrong. He's the only guy in the NBA who won't take a dunk, who won't dunk the ball because he's afraid he's going to get fouled from behind. And Danny Green has to defend him. Danny Green didn't even finish the cup of coffee that he's had here in Philadelphia, and I don't think he's going to get to finish it because it was a one-year deal. You know, he's okay as a role bench player, and they used him for a little more than that. He's trying to be nice, but you don't criticize the fans and tell them they got to be behind you when the player's not doing his best to be his best. And that was a total mistake. Not only do the fans now want Ben Simmons out of here, they want Danny Green out of here. And if they're both out of here, the team's going to be no worse off than they were before. And without Ben Simmons, I think it's addition by subtraction. But for Danny Green to say, what a moron. I mean, he's just a total dope for saying that. And obviously, he doesn't understand Philadelphia. He doesn't understand these fans who put up with a lot. And he just got to shut his mouth and finish that cup of coffee somewhere else because it won't be here.
I'll tell you what, too, Howard. I made this comment yesterday about the situation in Philly with him. I was very critical of Lamar Jackson. I said this, that guy will never be in this league in 5 years. You know what that kid did? He went out in the offseason, worked his ass off, came back the next year, led the NFL in touchdown passes. He was a Pro Bowler. He's won 80% of his games. And I went like this. That kid right there is a prime example of somebody who I thought was not going to get better at that position, who's getting better. You know why? He works at his craft. Who was ever telling Ben Simmons that he's a great player? I mean, maybe this is an organizational thing too, Howard, maybe because you're closer than I am. I'm looking at it from 30,000 feet. I mean, what have they been telling him for the last couple of years? I mean, it doesn't look like he's worked at his game. It looks like he's regressed in his game. How much is Doc accountable also for this whole scenario in this situation? Or is Doc off to the side on this?
All right, well, let me just tell you, it's no longer Doc Rivers in Philadelphia. It's Glenn Rivers in Philadelphia. He does deserve the name of Doc because that's Julius Erving. All right, so let's move. Doc Rivers is no longer Doc Rivers. He's Glenn Rivers, all right? Brett Brown, the last coach, nice guy, but unfortunately was friends with Ben Simmons' father, and he was an enabler. Now, Doc Rivers is stepped to be the Ben-abler because he told the people of Philadelphia it was nauseating when Glenn Rivers said, you guys just don't understand. Simmons is a treasure. And you guys just don't get it. You just don't know basketball if you don't understand that. Well, I do know this. Glenn Rivers has lost 23 consecutive deciding games. Glenn Rivers has lost 4 straight 7-game series. So Glenn Rivers just better pipe down, and he's not going to be gift wrapped the championship like he was in 2008. With the Boston Celtics when they had a great lineup when Danny Ainge put together a great roster. He's now got a coach, all right? And if he doesn't do that and stuff, and he doesn't enable Ben Simmons. By the way, I have a new nickname for Ben Simmons in the last couple of years. It's Benamin. It's Benjamin without the J because he doesn't have a J. So I just took it out of his name. But Glenn Rivers will tell you how great he is, and he's a facilitator. If you look at his assists, he basically hands it off and he passes the ball because he's afraid to go to the basket because he doesn't want to get fouled. So he just throws it back. And if a guy hits a jump shot from 3, he gets an assist. He's not like Trae Young. There's a lot of good player. I mean, Chris Paul, you can't compare him to Chris Paul, especially not because of the final situation. But the reality is Benamin just doesn't do the things you need to win. And for Glenn Rivers to tell us how wonderful he is, I might put both those guys in the fraud category. I already have Simmons, and I might put Glenn Rivers in that fraud category. They had the best chance of getting to the finals this year. I don't think they're going to get there next year. I mean, Joel Embiid is a terrific player. Doesn't stay healthy, and he can't give you 38 minutes a game without being tested in the fourth quarter. So that's a little bit of an issue. Is he a really, really, really good player? Yes. But the problem here in Philadelphia is Ben Simmons anointed himself the defensive player of the year. The guard hasn't won since 1996. Gary Payton won 1 year. And even Michael Jordan, who was a great defender, only won 1 year, the year before that. And then Joel Embiid said he was the MVP. Can't be MVP when you miss 20 games. And then Jokic plays every game of the year and is basically an assist away from a triple-double for a center. So these guys just – and the fans here allowed it. So for Danny Green to criticize the fans for kissing their rear end and kissing it all the time, and they get both cheeks too. They just don't do one cheek. They do both cheeks here in Philadelphia. And to do that and him criticize him, and then Glenn Rivers, it's going to be hard to change that. And I know Julius Erving so well. It's just terrible. Call another guy Doc in Philadelphia. Glenn Rivers has got to just coach, not tell us he's a treasure. And if Ben Simmons is here with the Sixers this year, these fans will go ballistic. As soon as he comes out on the court the first game, they'll let him have it. As soon as he misses his first free throw, and we know that's going to happen, they'll let him have it. And it's just a bad look. He went out and bought a home in L.A. for $17.5 million. Okay, that's fine. He has the right, and that's what he cares about is his money. And that's really all he cares about is his money. So do that is fine. But to now go with his newfound girlfriend, I don't know if they found themselves on the internet. I don't know what happened.
Instagram.
But to go to Wimbledon when he's supposed to be, it's all social media. He loves social media. But
maybe it's one of Deshaun Watson's. Maybe one of the hey Howard. Maybe it's one of Deshaun Watson's things. I don't know. I'm just throwing that in there. Please continue.
I won't. But you're supposed to give the people a good look and to be front and center when you're supposed to be working on your basketball skills. And I will tell you this: Ben Simmons, for the 5 years he's been here, has not spent 1 minute in team facility in the off season working on his game. And I know Giannis, and I know Giannis because I know people with the Bucks. He's in there every off season working to try to get better at everything he does. But Benamin hasn't been in their facility ever in the off season until they're required to come in. It's terrible. They can't win. The Sixers can't win with him. Just can't win. And I don't know if they can win with Glenn Rivers. But there's a lot of issues here. And Danny Green just compounded all that nonsense with what he said. Danny, just understand what Philadelphia is before you start spouting off. That's my message to him. And finish the cup of coffee. Do it.
Let me get into the Eagles here a little bit. Merrill Reese got in trouble on my program when he said that there was going to be a trade between the Buffalo Bills and the Eagles, and it looks like it's intimate. And all of a sudden, he started getting hammered. He even called me, and I was like, "Hey, man, I asked you the question. You're the one that said that there was a deal on the table here. Let me ask you, why did that relationship fall apart, Howard, between Ertz? And I get the injuries. I get it. Is it truly over just money on what ended up falling apart there at the end?
Well, they got another tight end in Dallas Goedert, who's going to be the number one guy. I think I love Zach Ertz. I love what he brought to the locker room. I love what he brought to the field. But he's been injured the last 2 years, and he's making a lot of money. And the Eagles tried hard, and I assume Zach's agent put it out there that there was all these trades. I know Buffalo really didn't. There really wasn't any talk. I mean, there's the normal general managers talk to general managers and names come up, but there wasn't any serious talk. And the problem this year with trading Zach Ertz, he makes $9 million a year, and the cap went down. That's a lot of money to pay a backup tight end. Buffalo's got a tight end, and I don't know that Zach Ertz could be a starter, and especially coming off of two straight seasons with injuries. Love the guy, love what he did here, but it's just that's what football is. You can't beat, and Zach's not old; he's only 30 years old, but you can't beat that part of football. When you start to get older and you start to have injuries. And now it was a bad year to try to fit in $9 million for any other team. If they got a sixth-round draft pick, it would be highway robbery, and that would be great for the Eagles if they got a sixth. But I don't know, because if a team trades for him, okay, you can redo his contract, but then you're going to have to guarantee him money next year. I don't think any team wants to do that at this point. I think what the Eagles are waiting for is possibly somebody to get hurt in camp and another team be desperate for a tight end. And then maybe you can get something for him. But the problem, again, and you're waiting for that. I'm not so sure Zach Ertz is going to report to camp because I just don't think there's any way he's going to be here this year. If he doesn't report, he gets fined. But then if he goes somewhere else, the other team's not going to charge him the fines, not going to assess the fines for him. So there's nothing close. And if it was, he would have been traded and they would have taken something for him. So I don't think it got stale. I think it's fact of the business of football. And I think that's what it comes down to. Zach loves the area. His family moved here. I get all that. But, there's times you have to move on. I would not be shocked if after all this happens, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Eagles eventually just say, all right, we're going to have to release you and go where you want. And ends up in Indianapolis with Carson Wentz. That wouldn't shock me a little bit. Have to redo his contract, obviously, but he and Wentz are really, really tight, and they really worked well together. So that wouldn't shock me if that happens in the end, but it's not going to be with a trade. It would have to be with a release, and then the other team sign him. At least that's the way, unless, again, some other team comes up with an injury.
Howard, Merrill Reese also said this in his 50 years covering the team. He said that he has not seen a more electric guy on the football field. Now, again, you and I know this. It's helmets and shorts, dude. I mean, let's not get over our skis here a little bit. But he is just absolutely taken by Devonta Smith and what it looks like he could become in this league. Now, my big criticism on this pick here is if you're going to take a wideout, man, you need to have the signal caller that can get him the ball. I mean, I don't care what that wideout is. If you don't have the guy that can get him the ball and he's an accurate guy, I mean, can the receiver help the quarterback? Yeah, but I always thought Montana helped Rice more so than the other way. Remember, Montana won that first Super Bowl, and there was no Jerry Rice on that 49ers team. There was Freddie Solomon and Henry Cooper and them dudes. Montana helped that progression of that guy and that player and Jerry Rice. How do you see this thing here? Because there's a lot of hype around Devonta Smith. Are you as high on him?
Well, let me just address one of the things you said. I think Montana is the GOAT. You can take Tom Brady in today's game, and you can give me Tom Brady all you want, because there's 2 Super Bowls he didn't win. Atlanta lost one, and Seattle lost one. So and he played in a division, the worst division in football, so they always got a bye every year. So the reality is that's one thing. All right, so I addressed the Montana, but that's not what you – I think Devonta Smith will be really exciting, lightning. Boy, I watch him, without a uniform on and just shorts. His legs are toothpicks. Guy, so tiny, but he's fast. He's Deshaun Jackson, speed-wise. Although Deshaun was great, but Deshaun got hurt later in his career. For 3 years, I think Devonta Smith is going to be a really, really exciting player. But you got to worry about a guy that small. And people say, oh, he can gain weight. Guys like that a lot of times just don't gain weight. You know, Deshaun Jackson never gained weight. So I think he's going to be really exciting. But you're right about the quarterback. And the quarterback's got to make good throws. He's got to make good reads. And if the other doubles him and they force – and I don't know about Jalen Hurts, and I don't think the Eagles know about Jalen Hurts. He's got to be able to read and get to his second and third progression, especially if they double Devonta Smith. So we'll see how that all works out. But Devonta Smith will be good. I mean, Merrill gets carried away sometimes. I love his enthusiasm, and I love what he says a lot of times. And he's enthusiastic and energetic. And, yeah, we didn't even see 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s with the Eagles because the players extorted the coaching staff for them to come in. None of that stuff, and only 3 weeks of camp. But we'll see in training camp when that starts the end of July and in August. We'll see a lot of those things. But he will be exciting. I will say that, Dan. Devonta Smith will be exciting. The only question I have is how many years can he stay healthy as small as he is? But they needed a wide receiver because I don't know about Jalen Reagor, and he better step up this year. So they have – and if the Eagles – I'll say this with the Eagles. I think if you have to look at the over-under, which is 6.5, I would take the over. They don't get on a plane the last 8 weeks of the season, which is an advantage. Based on last year, the schedule's weak. However, when they play the Jets, it's towards the end, and Wilson may have developed into a pretty good quarterback by the time they play the New York Jets. Washington's going to be tough. I think the Giants are always going to stink because of the New York Giants. So, and I think Daniel Jones is a fraud too. But that aside, I think they can win 8 games. I do think they can win 8 games, but the offensive line has to stay healthy. They have, if they're healthy, Lane Johnson would go from right to left. Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, which both were hurt last year. Jason Kelsey, who played every game but was hurt a lot last year, but he is so tough and he's so good. And then you got some indecision on the left tackle between Mailata and the former first-round draft pick Dillard. So, but if they stay healthy on the side, I think they can be good. I don't think they're going to win double-digit games, even though they're 17. But it could be an interesting season, and we'll see how Nick Sirianni is. He's said he's ready. He's ready for Philadelphia. I'm telling you, Philadelphia, he'll win a game by 2 touchdowns, and some media person, I won't even say what I was going to, some media person will question a play call or a decision he made in the game. Hey, man, he just won by 2 touchdowns. Everybody makes mistakes. I saw Bill Belichick. You notice I said Belichick. Bill Belichick makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, even the best. And Andy Reid, I think Andy Reid's the best coach in the NFL right now. But regardless of that, everybody makes mistakes. So we'll see how it plays out. But you got to have players, and the players have to be able to give you everything that they've got. But Devonta Smith is not the guy that I would be concerned about. I want to see what the quarterback can do. He had basically 1.5 games that were good. Good part of 1.5 games. He played 4, and I want to see what he does this year. Now he'll have a full camp. He'll have better wide receivers, offensive wide receivers with Devonta Smith. His offensive line will be healthy. So we'll see what he can do. But it could be interesting. But the Washington Redskins, man, that defense is so good. And with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's certainly, whether he plays 17 games or not is a question, but he's certainly better than what they had before. So we'll see. I mean, it's just, everything's up in the air with the Eagles. But there'll be a lot of things to look at.
How about this, Howard, finally here with Doug Peterson? Do you think he's going to be next year one of the hot commodities out there? I know they want to throw Eric Bieniemy's name in that conversation too. I always say this about Bieniemy. I know why he hasn't been hired. Have you seen that that track record of his, that background of some of the things that went on with him as a player and some of the run-ins with the law. I mean, I don't know how owners get over that. And I think that's kind of been a roadblock for people to get by, is some of the things that are in his past. And there's Doug Peterson with a Lombardi trophy. You know, he can always do this, and I'm going to use the bottle. He can always put, you know, the Lombardi trophy on that desk and go, hey, I won this. And nobody in Philadelphia, including Andy Reid, ever did this. I did this. You think he's going to be a hot candidate next year? Maybe a place like Dallas even too, if Mike McCarthy doesn't get it done.
Well, you should have told me about the Lombardi trophy, because I could have brought it out here and I would have had it for you, so we could have used that as a Lombardi trophy as a prop, because I've got one. So, you just give me a heads up next time.
Next time I want to see it for sure, dude.
Okay, all right. So here's what I think. In the NFL now, you notice most of these teams have hired young coaches. They're only getting about $3.5 million for 4 or 5 years. If you hire a veteran guy, that's $6 million he's still getting 6.5 this year. For this year, he still has a year left on his contract. They're not hiring those guys anymore, because if there's a mistake, you get rid of a guy after 3 years, you're still ahead of the game, because you're not paying them that much money. So, and you hope you find the next hot guy. As far as Bieniemy, almost every coach that has come out of Andy Reid's staff has been a good coach in the NFL. He's like, well, I mean, Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was with him for a while, and for a shorter time than Harbaugh has been with them. Sean McDermott has been with them. I'm sure I'm forgetting some guys, but there's guys out there all over the place, and they're off of Andy Reid's tree. Bill Belichick hasn't had one coach be real success in the NFL. And Vrabel wasn't a coach for him. He was a player for him, not a coach. So people say, oh, Mike Vrabel. No. He didn't coach on his staff. So because Bieniemy has got such good cachet, I think a team has got to get through the other issues that were there. And I think Mike Kafka, who Patrick Mahomes couldn't say enough good things about him at the Super Bowl, I remember. And Kafka is a sharp guy, and he's right with Bieniemy. If Bieniemy left, then Kafka would have been the offensive coordinator. So they got some good people on that staff. And Bieniemy is probably going to be a good coach, but you're right, teams probably have to overcome that. But teams aren't paying the big money anymore, because if they make a mistake, it's easy enough for them to get out of that mistake. And I mean, look at what the Chargers, the Falcons, the Eagles. There's probably another coach out there that's a young coach that they got. And there'll be a new coach in Dallas sooner or later, because they're not going to win with Mike McCarthy. Could win one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, are you kidding me? You're absolutely kidding me. Aaron Rodgers is, for one game, I want Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback. Right now, I want him for one game. Just one game. But he couldn't win with him. So there'll be another coach there. And Jerry Jones doesn't care what people say. If he's going to find a good coach, he'll find a way to get over it. If Bieniemy's a coach in the NFL, then he should be allowed to coach at a higher level, assuming that you don't lie about the situations and you tell everybody the truth, which what's his name, Jacksonville didn't do with his special teams coach.
Yes, Zach Smith,
coach in Jacksonville.
Yes, right. The weightlifting coach that came over from Iowa.
The head coach is, why do I forget his name? The Ohio State and Florida. I don't forget the head coach.
Urban Meyer.
I went brain dead on the head coach there.
Urban Meyer. Hey, Howard, I got a name for Urban Meyer. I call him Urban Liar.
And that's, I'll tell you what, it's a good name for him. Hey, you tell me he didn't know Aaron Hernandez was had problems when he was at Florida, going back to Florida. What do you have, 31 arrests of players when he was at the University
36
of
arrests in 6 years.
If he'd have told the truth. If he would have told the truth about this guy, and people could have gotten through it. But once you lie, and I've always said this about Roger Clemens. The truth will set you free. And Andy Pettit didn't tell the complete truth, but he told the truth. And it set him free. And he kind of separated himself from all that steroid stuff. If you tell the truth, you get a pass because you told the truth. And that's what teams to do. But I hope Eric Bieniemy gets a job because I think he's probably going to be a good coach somewhere. So just
Absolutely.
the fact that he worked under Andy Reid, and Andy loves him.
Absolutely. Howard, it is always great that you take time for me like this. And thank you so much, brother. Thank you again. I love the stuff that's going on in Philly with you, too. Everybody, you know what? Everybody still makes Howard Eskin relevant. Anytime you drop some love or some science on people, they always want you back, man. I mean, you're still shaking it up there in Philly.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Go ahead, say it.
I'm going to tell you a quick story. All right? Okay. Ben Simmons, for a few years, I did. He just wasn't good enough. So people called me a hater. One guy called up on the radio. He called me and said, "You're a hater." I said, the first thing I said is, "All right, when we get through all this," I said, "I'm not a hater. I learned from coaches about what he does and what he doesn't do." And I said, "Would you have taken James Harden, which was a chance, for Ben Simmons?" When he said, "I'd rather have Ben Simmons," I said, "I'm done." And then I told people after the playoffs were over, I said, all you people that said that I was a hater, I said, I don't want an apology. I just want you to kiss my ass.
All right, please drop the mic. Just drop the freaking mic. Just drop the mic, Howard. Just drop the damn mic. I love you, dude. I'm going to roll, man. Have a great weekend, Howard. I love this, man. Thank you so much. That is my friend. You got it, man. Howard Eskin. Just drop the mic. I don't want it. Just kiss my ass. With that note, we take a time out here on the National Football Show.